This is the launch of the CEO Water Mandate in Nigeria, which is part of the pre-summit event of the Nigeria Economic Summit being held in October 26th this year. And the launch of the CEO Water Mandate is to trigger the private sector engagement in the management of water resources in Nigeria. Last year, the president of Nigeria launched an effort to improve water resources and sanitation in Nigeria, which was the declaration of a state of emergency in Nigeria on water resources and sanitation. And that's because of the serious situation we have in Nigeria in terms of access and also devastating effect of floods in Nigeria. Just a couple of days ago, the president also signed the amendment to the Kyoto Protocol, aligning with other countries of the world to improve the fight against the impact of climate change, because Nigeria is also experiencing this seriously. Today, we are launching the CEO Water Mandate in Nigeria, and the objective is to galvanize private sector in Nigeria to get involved, to be part of the solution in terms of improving water resources management in Nigeria for sustainable use for businesses and for human lives. Thank you everyone for joining. To kickstart this event, we want to have a welcome statement by Kunle Lebute. Mr. Kunle is the chairman of KPMG Africa and the co-chair of NESG Infrastructure Policy Commission Steering Committee. Mr. Kunle, please.
Okay, I'm going to take the welcome statement on behalf of Kunle. He's here to join us, and I'm doing it in my capacity both as the facilitator for the Infrastructure Policy Commission of the NESG and the chair of the Central Organizing Committee for the summit, because this is a pre-summit event. So on behalf of the Infrastructure Policy Commission and the Organizing Committee for the summit, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to this event. This event is very significant for us because for us in the Infrastructure Policy Commission, we have focused on water and sanitation because we realize that water poses one of the greatest sustainability challenges of the 21st century. And businesses around the world have faced water-related risks due to water supply shortages, pollution, inadequate infrastructure, drought, flood, weak governance, and a variety of other related challenges. So it gives us great pleasure to be able to host this event. For the summit, as you all know, the theme for the summit is building partnerships for resilience. And this event particularly speaks to that because we are seeking to build a multi-stakeholder partnership for resilience in the water sector. We look forward to a very, very robust event. We look forward to the statements from all our partners and then the launch itself. Thank you so much for joining us. And then I'll hand over back to Gabriel. Thank you.
Nana for standing in, and thank you everyone for joining us today, and welcome once again. The CEO Water Mandate was launched in 2007 at the UN and is mainly to galvanize private sector, companies, and businesses in the development, implementation, and disclosure of water sustainability policies and practices. And is also expected to improve water resources management in their communities. Nigeria today, working with private entities and the UN Global Compact, is saying we want to improve water resources management, but make it driven by the private sector. Also, this would contribute to what the government is doing and also what the civil society is also doing in Nigeria. The next on our agenda is the opening remarks by Mr. Jason Morrison. Mr. Jason is the head of UN Global Compact CEO Water Mandate and the president of the Pacific Institute. Mr. Jason, please.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, Honorable Minister, distinguished guests, I'm very excited to be here and to talk a bit about the CEO Water Mandate and encourage our companies in attendance today to endorse this commitment platform and to come together to work collaboratively to address water challenges in Nigeria. And we stand ready to work with Naomi and Nonkola to support such collaborative efforts and commitments by the business community in Nigeria. So in terms of the terrain that I hope to cover today, I'm going to say a few words about the CEO Water Mandate itself. Next slide, please. And then I want to pan out a little bit and talk about the global water crisis as it relates to business risk, discuss the emergence of corporate water stewardship as a risk mitigation strategy and a way of achieving water security. And then I want to conclude by talking about some of the work of the Sea Water Mandate. I don't have enough time to get into all the detail, but to illustrate some of the leading practice that we are doing and the collective actions that we are pursuing. So in 2007, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon launched this corporate water stewardship commitment platform that's housed within the Global Compact. The initiative is now endorsed by some 175 companies from around the world. And when a company commits to join the Sea Water Mandate, it commits to taking action in the 6 areas that are depicted at the bottom of this screen around improving direct operations and efficiency, engaging with supply chain partners, engaging with water managers within watersheds. We know that water is one of those topics and resources where companies cannot address the issues alone. So they need to work collaboratively with their peer companies, but other stakeholders to address challenges that are local in nature, engaging in public policy, working with communities, and then all along being transparent and communicating about activities and progress over time. Slide is not big enough to put all 175 logos up, but this is a subset of the Sea Water Mandate endorsing companies that are involved in the action platform, which is the engagement level that is focuses on advancing best practices, and for the companies that really do want to roll up the sleeves and work with one another on water issues. You can see here a range of industry sectors represented, and also headquartered companies in various regions around the world. So when people talk about the water crisis, what are they really talking about here? It's the issue of too little water at times. It was already mentioned by our facilitator at the outset that we have episodes of too much water, degraded water quality, and pollution becoming a key issue that limits effective use. We have a disproportionate access to water with a huge percentage of the world population that does not have safely managed sanitation and clean water supplies. And then shocks to the system like COVID-19 that we're facing and the impacts that has for our front line of defense of hand washing as a means of limiting the spread of the pandemic, of the disease. We have dewatered freshwater ecosystems to the point not only where there's significant biodiversity challenges, but even the function of these systems and the ability to absorb storm events has been compromised. And then there's the issue of either failing or inadequate water infrastructure. In OECD countries, it's an issue of aging infrastructure, and in the Global South, it's the issue of much of this infrastructure not having yet been built. Many of the companies that adhere to water stewardship orient around the idea of water security. This is because I think the definition and the scope of water security really speaks to the business community. And here I just want to call out a few elements of this definition that was put forward by UN Water in 2013. I think it's one of the most comprehensive and authoritative definitions. But here we're talking about the ability to have safely managed water of sufficient quality to sustain livelihood and human well-being and health, protecting against waterborne pollution and natural water-related disasters, all the way doing so in a climate of peace and political stability. So this is an endpoint, so to speak, that companies are striving toward as they're working to manage their risks. And the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN that were launched in 2015 have a goal that speaks directly to water. And in fact, the business community advocated very vociferously for a standalone goal on water, and not just one that focused on water access, sanitation, and hygiene like we had in the Millennial Development Goals, but a much more comprehensive goal that tackled water quality issues, supply and demand balance in watersheds, ecosystem health, and then the capacity building and participation in communities, which are key methods of achieving water security. So how does water insecurity manifest in risk for companies? And some part of it is just risk that comes from a company mismanaging the water, whether they're very inefficiently using the water or polluting it. But much of the risk that companies face are ultimately around risk that comes from the way that water is managed within a basin. The growth trends, the pollution of that water resource, and all of those types of external dimensions or contextual dimensions manifest in risk for companies, either physical risk, which could be when a company is not able to utilize the water during a prolonged dry period, reputational risk if the community does not feel like the company is managing its water resources efficiently and responsibly, and then regulatory risk, shutdowns that occur when there's insufficient supplies and the inability to meet all water users' needs. There's also, as mentioned earlier, emerging risk around climate change and as it relates to water systems. So this report was released on World Water Day this year. This year's theme was water and climate. And this was a survey of companies that have been in part of an initiative called the Business Alliance for Water and Climate that launched on at COP21 in Paris. And it really looks to review what is the state of play with companies in terms of understanding their water-related risk in the context of climate change. And what we found is that many companies are not thinking about this issue beyond their own operations. There is anecdotal evidence of leadership, but many companies are not taking action at the speed and the extent needed. And oftentimes that's because there's a lack of structured approaches for taking on water resilience. But getting to a place where businesses are water resilient will require dramatic improvements in water efficiency, pollution control, and investments in healthy catchments, as well as improving adaptive water governance. So about 10 years, maybe 15 years ago now, corporate water stewardship emerged as a response to water-related risk. The Alliance for Water Stewardship has defined water stewardship as the socially equitable, environmentally sustainable, and economically beneficial use of water. So the 3 E's of sustainability, achieved through a stakeholder inclusive process. So that involves working with others within a region and taking action both at the site level, but also at the river basin or catchment level as well. It's a combination of those two. It's not the case that companies move through this stewardship progression from left to right, but for many companies, it is about starting on this left side, understanding the water use within their own operations and putting in place efficiency measures to measure and reduce use and pollution. Eventually, though, companies start to begin to understand the context in which they're operating and they're using water. And that can either be on a place basis. So where is the company operating and what is the risk presented by that rivershed or that locality? Or beginning to understand where a company may face risk within its entire value chain. Once there's an understanding of this context, companies begin to become more strategic around water and then respond through a combination of interventions, whether it be working with others on a place basis to collectively manage for those water-related risks, or to engage in the value chain with supply chain partners and customers in a way that reduces that risk. And much of that happens in a way that is advancing water security. And this is where you have alignment between public sector and the private sector on water. If you look at the left-hand side of this, there are 3 dimensions of stress that are highlighted here: the water quantity or availability piece, the water quality, or the water accessibility, the degree to which the community and the population has water. And these are 3 elements that you will realize were covered in SDG 6. But we also have risk that comes about in ways that are not water stress related, but may be related to climate change and flooding. And all of that is housed within the water governance approach. And this is, of course, how this represents as risk in the basin for the companies, and the way that companies need to think about taking on these issues in a way that advances water security and simultaneously reduces their water-related risk. So just want to speak a little bit about the work that the Sea Water Mandate has done and the reasons for getting engaged in the water in the mandate, and also trying to drive the action collectively with peer companies in Nigeria. One example is the emerging work that has happened around how companies can take a contextual approach to setting their own water targets, and then the partnership strategies and investment strategies that come out of that target setting exercise. What we understand is that water is a local issue, and therefore companies need to think about the issues in that context that are most important, and then prioritize their strategies and their investments in a way that tackle those most stressed or key challenges for that region. And we worked with many of the organizations that are at the bottom of this slide that are logoed here in developing a framework for how companies can take a contextual approach to water target setting. There's also been increasing recognition in the business community that we need to bring together our strategies for addressing water and climate, and that these two approaches, if we're honest with ourselves, have been very siloed. But in fact, we need to come up with strategies that are more integrated and that realize in co-benefits for greenhouse gas reduction and also climate adaptation and water resilience. One stream of work, and you can click a couple of times to come through the animation here, is the work around trying to understand the co-benefits in investing in nature-based solutions in a way that simultaneously realizes greenhouse gas reduction or carbon capture benefits, but also water resiliency. And there are a number of ways that companies are investing in these issues, and we have a project that is trying to come up with a standardized way to account for these co-benefits between climate and water through nature-based solutions. And then the last thing I want to talk about is an initiative that launched this year, also on World Water Day, called the Water Resilience Coalition. And really what this initiative is trying to do is work with the companies that recognize that there is an urgent need to accelerate progress and to be more ambitious, to elevate the ambition on water through time-bound, quantifiable goals and a commitment to work together in water-stressed regions. And on this slide, I just want to talk about the domains that the Water Resilience Coalition is trying to address. It's not just about operations, it's this collective action work in basins, looking to realize the co-benefits between climate and water through the investments in these basins, addressing the social inequity around water, and then beginning to be more vocal to urge the acceleration of action on the issue. So these are the dimensions. Next slide is my final slide, actually second to last slide. And it talks about the pledge itself. And I'm going to focus here on the middle row. But what this pledge is committing companies to do is to first and foremost begin to have a positive impact on water in the water stress regions where the company has operations, and focusing on all three dimensions of stress: water availability, water quality, and water accessibility. And then the second commitment area is around building water resilience in the value chain. And the last is the vocal leadership and urging action. One example, and I know that we'll have WaterAid talking later on the agenda, my next slide, is a campaign that we launched during the UN General Assembly, which is an example of collective action around raising awareness on the urgent need to take action on clean water access and hygiene. And this was a campaign that is around mobilizing the business community on WASH and COVID-19, and a great partnership between WaterAid and the Sea Water Mandate and its member companies in the Water Resilience Coalition. So I will stop there. Very much looking forward to the discussion today, and also to the prospect of having a number of companies come forward, become endorsers of the Seawater Mandate, and commit to working together to address water challenges in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jason, and thank you for the detailed presentation on your opening remarks. Now it's clear that this is already happening in other countries, and even in Nigeria, a couple of companies are already implementing either direct operations in terms of conservative water use, or how they discharge wastewater into the ecosystem, or how they manage watershed within their operating environment. I think this launch is basically trying to galvanize all private entities in the country to support that effort. And the effort is already being implemented by the Federal Ministry of Water Resources. And
Gabriel, you are muted. Gabriel, you are muted. Please unmute.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Jason, for the detailed presentation. And we now see that it's already happening in other countries. Water resilience, water resources management with private sector efforts is happening already. And today we are launching the CEO Water Mandate in Nigeria, which will basically galvanize and mobilize private sector in Nigeria to improve water resources management. Water resources management is already being done by the Federal Ministry of Water Resources, and we are privileged to have the Honorable Minister for Water Resources in Nigeria, Engineer Suleiman Adamu, who is now going to give us his keynote remarks. Engineer Suleiman Adamu, please. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Thank you very much, Ekanim. It's my pleasure to join you at this summit event, the Nigeria Economic Summit, the launch of the CEO Water Mandate in Nigeria, understanding preparation for the 26th Nigeria Economic Summit, towards the end of this month. As you know, this country is faced with the need to redirect the economy in the path of sustainable growth and development, tackle its myriad economic challenges occasioned by the decline in the nation's oil revenue base, the current severe economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The relevance of water to Nigeria's national development is pivotal. Population growth, urbanization, and increased efforts at agriculture and industrial development. This relevance has increasingly brought to fore very key issues of our existence, thus occasioning the need for increased access to water for Nigerians. The water sector, as you know, is a pillar for food security, job creation, water supply, sanitation, hydropower generation, flood control, tourism, and navigation, among others. Let me also say Nigeria's surface and groundwater resource is estimated about 250 billion cubic meters, translating to 1,800 cubic meters per capita per year of renewable water resource that is available for the population. This is more than the 1,000 cubic meter per capita per year benchmark for water-scarce countries. So, all the same, Nigeria is ranked as an economically water-scarce country due to lack of adequate investment and management to meet current demands, also future demands. So, to ensure the sustainability of the sector, concerted efforts have been made over the years. Some of the key policy documents to provide strategic plan and policy direction, the water resources program, water implementation in the country include the following. We have a National Water Resources Master Plan, National Water Supply and Sanitation Policy since 2000, National Water Resources Policy 2016, National Irrigation and Drainage Policy and Strategy 2016 to 2030, and we have under this administration, we developed a Water Sector Roadmap 2016 to 2030, and then the National Water Sanitation and Hygiene WASH Action Plan that was launched by the President in 2018. These documents provide a framework for planning, developing and managing the nation's water resources towards achieving integrated water resources management. The mainstreaming of integrated river basin management principles and practices to promote management of the nation's water resources is receiving prime attention across the 12 river basin development authorities that we have. The National Water Resources Bill, controversial as it is under consideration by the National Assembly and is meant to provide the necessary legal framework for sustainable development, management, use, and conservation of the nation's water resources. It also aims at strengthening regulations to provide favorable environment for private sector participation, especially in the delivery of urban water supply and investment, hydropower, and irrigation projects. Nigeria's water sector has huge potentials for private sector investment. Currently, there are over 200 dams spread across the country, with bulk water impoundment capacity of over 39 billion cubic meters to support irrigated agriculture, water supply, hydropower, aquaculture, and tourism. The National Water Resources Master Plan also indicates that Nigeria has a hydropower potential of about 12,000 megawatts plus, out of which only about 2,000 megawatts have been developed to date. There are a number of dams with hydropower potential yet to be developed, which provide opportunities to investors. In addition, Nigeria is blessed with 3.1 million hectares of irrigable land, out of which 500,000 hectares is planned for irrigation development by 2030. Presently, about 89,000 hectares are being cultivated. That's under federal government control. And a total of 55,000 hectares leased out to commercial farmers from the basins. The ministry has an elaborate arrangement for further collaboration with potential private investors so as to embark on large-scale commercial farming for the 12 river basin development authorities. The 2019 Water Sanitation and Hygiene National survey puts the national access to potable water and adequate sanitation at 71% and 42% respectively. That's 71% for water, potable water coverage, 42% for sanitation. Of course, the target being 100% for both by the year 2030. However, national access to pipe-borne water especially declined from 30% in 1992, only 7% in 2015. This arose because there has been drastic decline in investment in water supply infrastructure by state governments. Therefore, there is a need for substantial private sector participation if we are to attain the 100% SDG targets. And towards that, the ministry established a number of initiatives, which include the Partnership for Expanded Water Supply, Sanitation, and Hygiene, towards accelerating access to water supply, sanitation, and hygiene in rural areas. This was launched in November 2016. We have the Urban Water Sector Reform Program to enhance sustainable water supply and sanitation delivery in urban areas, which is supported by the World Bank for several years now. And then the Clean Nigeria Use the Toilet National Campaign achieved identification-free status for the country by 2025. Hello? Hello?
You're back now. We lost you.
You lost me for a couple of minutes, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I think the Honorable Minister is back on.
Yes.
Okay.
I was saying that, okay, let me go back just a little bit, that national access to pipe-borne water supply declined from 30% in 1992 to only 7% in 2015. This is because there has been a decline in investments by state governments who are primarily responsible for providing water supply while at the same time the population has been increasing. So there is a need for substantial private sector investment participation if we're to attain the 100% SDG targets. And our own efforts towards that include following initiative, some initiatives that we started, which include the Partnership for Expanded Water Supply, Sanitation and Hygiene Program, PWASH, which is geared towards accelerating access to water supply, sanitation and hygiene in rural areas. And this program was launched in 2016. There's also the Urban Water Sector Reform Program to enhance sustainable water supply and sanitation delivery in urban areas. And this is being supported by the World Bank. Then we also launched the Clean Nigeria Use the Toilet National Campaign to ensure the country achieves open defecation free status by 2025. This was launched in 2019, November, and is backed by Executive Order number 9, promulgated by the President to ensure that Nigeria attains an defecation free status by 2025. And finally, we also have the National Action Plan for Water Sanitation, which I mentioned earlier. This was launched in November 2018, and at that launching, the President of the Republic of Nigeria declared a state of emergency on the water, sanitation, and hygiene sector. It is important to note that in spite of the giant strides made by government over the years, there is still a huge investment gap. Let me therefore use this opportunity to warmly welcome the CEO Water Mandate, take advantage of these tremendous investment opportunities in the water sector, partner with us towards attracting investments with a view to ensuring the attainment of the goals and objectives of our water sector roadmap, the 2-year roadmap that we launched 2016 to 2030, and of course the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Let me also assure you of our commitment to sustainable water resources management, and support to the CEO mandate, CEO Water Mandate in Nigeria. We're pleased to be associated with the CEO Water Mandate. We also look forward to some form of collaboration, a successful one at that. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, and thank you for the assurances you've given us. We will make sure we follow up on that because we have to work closely with government as we implement this. Increasing population, increasing impact of climate change, we really do not have much of a choice than to act very fast. And Honorable Minister, you've rolled out some programs and some policies. We've seen some questions that people are requesting for these documents. We will definitely facilitate that to distribute across the private sector space. That way, the private entities can also have access to these policy documents, or also start acting on them, particularly around the Water Resources Management Master Plan. That way, the private entities can see what the government is planning and also identify where the opportunities are to get engaged. More interestingly is that the private sector is not looking just within the operations, it's also within the basin and the watershed management because it has direct impact on the operation as well. And so we would like to work with the government to look at river basin management, watershed management, and also hydrological area management and catchment area management. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We look forward to working with you on this. Next on our program is the experience sharing. I want to start with Christian. Christian is the Public Affairs Manager for Nestle, and he'll be sharing his experience implementing CEO Water Mandate at Nestle. Christian, please.
Yeah, hi there. Can you hear me?
We can hear you very well. Thank you.
Yes, we can.
All right, I'm going to try to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
We can see your screen. Perfect.
All right. Very well. So thanks a lot for the invitation. I would just like to share Nestlé's water stewardship journey. I would also like to highlight the importance of collective action. And finally, why? Because collective action is important. I do think that the launch of a local CEO Water Mandate platform in Nigeria is a good idea. So if you look at water for a food and beverage company, water has an intrinsic importance. Our factories, for instance, have always been located next to a water source. This has been the case with our first factory in 1865, located close to a local water stream. Why? Because water provides A, energy, B, transport connections, and C, water provides water which you use to cook or clean in your factory. But it was only until kind of the 2000 years that water became really kind of a strategic priority for Nestle, but also for other companies. And we have actually seen that the CO water mandate globally was also established around that time. So if you look at today at our operational footprint, you can see that we know that around 35% of our factories are located in areas with water stress. And we do know that globally around 70% of the agriculture that is irrigated takes place in areas that are affected by water stress. So when we did make water a strategic priority for our company, as mentioned, as many other companies, we first looked at our operations and how to improve water use in our own facilities. With the impact that over the past 20 years, we have improved our water use efficiency by over 80%. On the other side, we also kind of came up with the concept of zero water factories, which are factories that don't withdraw any water from the local watershed, but the water they use for the factory comes actually out of the raw materials that are supplied to the factory, typically milk. So today we have over 20 factories in 13 countries that are zero water factories. However, over time, we also realized that actually you can become a world-class company in terms of managing water within the boundaries of your own operations. However, you don't really have an impact, real impact, a sizable impact from operation and from a reputational point of view. We do all benefit from water collectively. So we have to take care of water resources really collectively. So managing water in your operations is one thing, but you can really only have an impact if you do that together with your neighbors, with other water users that are with you in the same watershed. So it was really important for us that when we worked on our new kind of water stewardship strategy, that we would go beyond our own factory fences and work in collective action in the watersheds where we are, and also focus on our agriculture supply chain, where, by the way, the biggest water use is located across our value chain. So what does it mean in practice? And I've brought here kind of the example of the California Water Action Collaborative, which is an effort which was actually brought to life by the local platform of the CO Water Mandate in the US in 2016. And California is a region that is important for Nestle business. However, it's also kind of a challenging region in terms of the environmental context, in terms of the wildfires, in terms of the drought. So this is why Nestle joined actually in 2016 together with other companies, but also together with other stakeholders from other sectors, civil society organization. This effort convened by the CO Water Mandate, and specifically for Nestle, we supported a project called the American River Headwaters Project, focusing on reducing the risk of high severity wildfires, focusing on protecting water supply, and focusing on increasing the watershed resilience. However, we know that California is not Nigeria, and each watershed comes with its own challenges. This is why I do really kind of embrace this initiative of setting up a local chapter of the UNCO water mandate in Nigeria. And I'd like to close my input that water is a natural resource. You can think of it from an environmental point of view. However, also, water is also kind of a fantastic carrier to connect people. So if you find kind of a challenge in the water space, what is really important, the solution that you actually have can be perfect, but it can only be perfect if you actually bring people with you, and if it's actually accepted by people. And this is, by the way, a picture that I took on my last trip to Nigeria, to one of our factories that we have in Ogun State. So I'm closing, and yeah, I think I'm handing over to my colleague from Heineken.
Thank you, Christian, and thank you for that presentation. I think Jean William will join us now to share his presentation from Heineken. Jean William is the Global Manager, Corporate Social Responsibility at Heineken International. Jean, please.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I think your team will show the slides, if I'm correct. I will. There you go. And well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here, and also congratulations to the CEO Water Mandate for launching the platforming in Nigeria. Before diving into the water and share how we address water stewardship, let me start by giving you a very short introduction. If we go to the next slide, probably Heineken here in Nigeria, most and for all through Nigerian breweries. We have a history going back in Nigeria to 1946. And we introduced the first bottle of Star in 1949. That's a long time ago. But the Heineken company even started a bit earlier in 1864, and it is really a family business. Now 4 generations have built the company, and we are now the 4th generation with Mrs. Charlene de Carvalho Heineken at the helm. If we go to the next slide, we have over 170 breweries in 70 countries. Everyone knows Heineken best by its Heineken brand, and I show you the 0.0 version because it's still too early to drink a regular one. But good to know that we have over 250 brands, many of them local, like in Nigeria. You might know Gulder, Maltina, Legend, and Star, of course. Now back to today's topic, water, on the next slide. And water is an integrated part of our sustainability agenda, Brewing a Better World, which makes total sense because 95% of beer is water. We have been endorsing the CEO Water Mandate platform since 2009 and are now a member of the Action Platform. It's, I think, an excellent platform for exchanging ideas, for learning, for taking action. And we also became one of the members of the Water Resilience Coalition, which was recently launched in March and very much advocating collective action. It's important to look at water from a value chain perspective. The biggest impact, as always, is in agriculture. And my colleague Christian from Nestlé already mentioned it. 70% of the world's water is used in agriculture. And that's also where we use most of our water as Heineken. Now, the good thing is barley is our main source, and it's a water efficient crop. It can grow by rain, and only 6% needs irrigation. However, this might become a problem where water is already stressed. And I will show you an example how we address this later on. We also use water in our production, of course, and that's where we can make the biggest impact, actually, especially in parts where there is water stress. And out of our 170 breweries, we have identified 29 of them being in water stressed areas, 4 of them in Nigeria. I expect that number will grow in the coming decade because of the continuing developments in the world and also because of climate change. If we go to the next slide, you will see that during the last 10 years, we really made a conscious effort to decrease our water usage in production. In 2008, we still needed on average 5 liters to make 1 liter of beer. Today, the average is now 3.4 liters for every beer. And in water stress areas, it's even 3.1, a reduction of more than a third. Because high quality water is important, we have also focused our attention to wastewater treatment in the last 10 years. Today, we treat 97% of our wastewater globally so that it is returned safely to the environment. Our goal is to go to the 100%. It takes always more time to get to the last few percentage, but it's an important goal because untreated wastewater is a big problem in the world. World Bank statistics show that still 80% of total human wastewater ends up untreated in nature. And that is specifically a problem when water is already under stress. Moving forward, we have chosen a different strategy, which we believe is more holistic and context-based rather than focusing on efficiency only. This because working on efficiency alone is insufficient. And Christian also mentioned that if you really want to tackle problems in areas where water is under pressure. And healthy watersheds are now at the heart of our 2030 strategy, which is called Every Drop. In other words, we clearly look beyond the fence of the breweries. Our ambition is in areas where water is under pressure to return every liter of water used for the production of our beer back to the local water basin. This can be done, for example, through reforestation or the restoration of wetlands. I will give you some examples later on. We have already built good experience on that, but collective action is also required to make a real difference. This is not easy and it takes time, but we're already seeing some good results, for instance, in Mexico and Indonesia. In addition, we want to make our water use more and more circular and explore if we can reuse treated wastewater, not only within our own breweries, but also for use by others, including nearby industries, farmers, and natures. And of course, we will continue to work towards more efficient water use in our breweries with new targets. And if we go to the next slide, it actually also fits in quite nicely to a slide that Jason showed. It is the intention that each brewery in a water-stressed area will work towards a more healthy watershed and work on all these 3 elements that translate into an action plan that fits the local context. Now, let me give some examples around the world, starting with making our wastewater more circular. The next slide is actually a wastewater treatment plant in Vietnam. Well, what is interesting is that by looking at wastewater through a circular economy lens, it opens many opportunities and it can make wastewater an asset. Wastewater management is then no longer a process of treatment and disposal, but becomes one of reuse, recycle, and resource recovery. So rather than looking at it as a problem, it can be seen as a solution for water scarcity when other users like farmers or other industries can reuse our treated wastewater. It's not easy because there are quite some obstacles that need to be removed, sometimes legal obstacles, sometimes cultural obstacles, but we truly believe in it. But also think about energy generation. In many breweries, we transform part of our wastewater into biogas that we can use for heating up our breweries. Like in Nigeria, we already do that. And the sludge of our wastewater, which is a byproduct, it can be transformed into organic fertilizer for farmers. And we already do that for several breweries, like in Ethiopia. So you're really turning waste into value. You look at it with a different angle. Now, let's give some examples of how we balance and replenish the water back into nature. On this slide, you see an example of a project we are doing with SOS Mata Atlântica in Brazil. Now, this NGO is a little bit the Brazilian version of Greenpeace, and they're fighting to preserve the rainforest along the Atlantic coast, which is really necessary because the rainforest is under a huge pressure at the moment. We started a project with them a long time ago in 2005 to reforest about 200 hectares of land near our brewery, which used to be a coffee plantation. And we now see a lot of forests that have come back, and we also see water springs are coming back. It is really positively influencing water supplies. In Mexico, on the next slide, we are working with farmers and the International Maize and Wheat Improvement Center to change the way they are working in agriculture, cultivating our barley. We see encouraging results where farmers are using less water and less pesticides and other inputs while increasing their yields. But it's not an easy journey to change the way of working because farmers sometimes are used to certain practices for decades. It runs in the families, and very often they use much more of these inputs than actually necessary. So still a way to go there. On our next slide, you will see Spain, where we have been restoring wetlands in the Doñana Reserve, which is one of the largest biodiverse areas in Europe and an important resting place for birds that are migrating from Africa to Europe. At this moment, Doñana is under a huge pressure. The amount of water used by farmers in the surrounding areas is affecting negatively to the aquifer and wetlands life. Now, our project, and we work together with an NGO, the Spanish government, and also with local town councils, consisted in the restoration of 4 lagoons, bringing back more than 1 million cubic meters of water a year, which actually made our brewery in Seville more than water positive. But solutions don't always have to be nature-based. In Egypt, for instance, we have been collaborating with the German Development Corporation, GIZ, and the Bahara Water and Wastewater Company, where we donated detection equipment to support the water company in detecting and repairing leaks, because there are a lot of leaks in water infrastructure around the world in every country. The amount of water saved with this project is actually higher than the amount of water we consume for our products in all breweries. So all in all, as Heineken, we can do a lot to reduce and reuse our water usage and in balancing our own water consumption in and around our operations. But obviously, creating and maintaining healthy watersheds needs more than that. As I mentioned before, every watershed has a unique environment and social and political context, and with more users and stakeholders involved than just us. And in our experience, we cannot be the sole actor. And without the active engagement and leadership of local government, projects actually rarely succeed. Likewise, other key partners, be other companies, NGOs, civil society, cities, they really need to play an active role in the collaborative efforts to retain and to restore watershed health. And just pulling our straw out won't solve anything. So addressing water issues and creating appropriate opportunities require an understanding of how it all are interdependent, and it requires deep collaboration. So for example, in Mexico, in Monterrey, we are part of a multi-stakeholder water fund established in 2013, and you will see that on the next slides. The stakeholders are not only taking action for their own part in their water fund, but the fund also developed collaborative action. Like, for instance, they developed a hydrological vision for the wider water basin towards 2050, advising the regional government. We are involved in setting up a similar fund in another area of Mexico, which is more focusing on farmers and sustainable use of water. I think this is a perfect example of collective action. It's not easy. It's, I think, the most difficult part of our agenda, but it pays off. Now back to Nigeria. On the next slide, 5 years ago, we brought together with UNIDO, which is the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, 30 stakeholders in a 3-day workshop in Lagos. We discussed at that time the situation in Ibadan and what needs to be done to reduce the water stress in this fast-growing city. Now, at that time, there were lots of ideas that came up on the table, but now is the time to translate these conversations and these ideas into real actions. We have absolutely the willing to support that, but we need others to take up their role as well, other businesses, the government, and other stakeholders. We will announce soon a new initiative, which is outside Ibadan. It is related to 3 of our other breweries. It will be related to reforestation together with the regional government. But Ibadan is also very close to our heart, and hopefully it will also generate some action there because it is really needed. And that's why we're so incredibly happy with the CO Water Mandate initiative in Nigeria. And we hope the platform will play a role in supporting this and other collaborative actions and in raising this hugely important topic to the top of the agenda in Nigeria. Because also in Nigeria, every drop counts, even more so in these very, very challenging times. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jean-William and Christian. I think your experiences show that it's possible, and it's also possible in Nigeria. And I think we'll take the lessons from that and try to implement same in Nigeria. There's been some questions around if the slides will be shared. Definitely we will share the slides and also the minister's keynote remarks. Now, to formally launch the CEO Water Mandate in Nigeria, we have Mr. Aswe Ighodalo, the chairman, Nigeria Economic Summit Group. He will formally launch the CEO Water Mandate in Nigeria, and we will take that forward from here. Mr. Aswe, please. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Gabriel. Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister for Water Resources, Engineer Suleiman Adamu, good to see you. Quite a while. I hope you're in good spirits. And thank you for joining us this afternoon. The head of the UN Global Compact CEO mandate, the Executive Director, UN Global Compact in Nigeria, Your Excellencies, heads of diplomatic missions, our endorsers and partners, and I see that Nestle and Heineken through Nigerian breweries have already kickstarted this process in Nigeria. Invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Today's event marks a significant milestone for the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, the NESG, as it underscores our mission to be an enabling platform for mobilizing the private sector to tackle challenging economic and social issues which confront our nation. Since our first summit in February 1993, the NESG has played a leading role in the economic and social affairs of our nation as convener, intervener, watchdog, and dialogue partner. It is therefore fitting that we join hands with the United Nations Global Compact to support its initiative to mobilize business leaders all over the world to focus on water sustainability, practices, and sanitation-related issues. Presently, Nigeria is ranked as an economic water-scarce country, due primarily to inadequate investments over time in the development and management of available water resources for our social, economic, and environmental needs. If our current levels of investment and management of water resources remain the same, Nigeria may slip into the league of water-stressed nations due to expanding aggregate demand from an increasing population and our heightened economic activities. This will negatively impact our lives, our business, and our economy. Today, 28 out of our 36 states in Nigeria experience floods in varying damaging degrees, with devastating impact on lives, food production, food security, and overall economic output. The recent floods in Kebbi State wiped out a substantial part of our 2020 rice harvest. The floods caused primarily by our pollution, degradation, and blockage of water flows and sources compound other existing challenges of access to safe drinking water, sanitation, wastage, pollution and diversion, and all of this now made worse by the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Although determined efforts are being made by our governments and development partners to ensure that Nigeria meets the sustainable development goals on water and sanitation, a lot more needs to be done. And I thank the Honorable Minister for his assurance that a lot is being done and for his assurance on the policies that have been rolled out. The depletion of ground and surface freshwater sources, pollution of water bodies, loss of wetlands, and degradation of aquatic ecosystems are challenges that we must deal with to attain a sustainable, healthy, and safe environment to achieve enhanced social and economic activities. The mission of the CEO Water Mandate to mobilize a critical mass of business leaders to address global water challenges through water stewardship in partnership with United Nations, governments, civil society organizations, and other stakeholders is a positive step towards addressing these challenges. Since its launch in 2007, the CEO Water Mandate, working with endorsers, governments, and civil society, has gained momentum and achieved worthy results. Today, our businesses and the civil society stand committed to be part of the solution to the water crisis and water-related issues in our country by joining hands with our governments in seeking appropriate resolution of these issues. The NESG and the UN Global Compact Nigeria hereby commit to galvanize the private sector to engage in the needed collaborations, partnerships, and activities to ensure improved water resource management in Nigeria on the platform of the CEO Water Mandates. We undertake to embrace and abide by the 6 core elements of the CEO Water Mandate, starting with our own businesses and in the communities where we operate. Through this platform, we will facilitate more effective collaboration between multiple stakeholders to promote innovations and reforms to effectively manage and harness our water resources and responsibly utilize same for the rapid economic growth of our country. Water is life, and next to air, water is the most important substance on earth. We must therefore conserve, utilize, and treat water with the respect its importance deserves. The theme of the 26th Nigerian Economic Summit, NES26, which is jointly hosted by the federal government of Nigeria and the Economic Summit Group, is Building Partnerships for Resilience. The summit is scheduled to hold on the 26th and 27th of this month in Abuja and hybrid virtually. The objectives of the CEO mandate, Water Mandate, fully align with the theme of NES26 and the ethos of the NESG, because it recognizes that a resilient and growth multiplying water sector is only achievable through multiple stakeholder partnerships and collaborations. We enjoin all participants at today's event to please register for the summit and join us at the end of the month so that we can continue our big conversation for action. It is now my pleasure and privilege on behalf of the board of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group and all our partners and other private sector operators to hereby launch the CEO Water Mandate in Nigeria. The NESG is committed to facilitating the realization of the objectives of the CEO Water Mandate, and we look forward to working with the federal and state governments, particularly my friend, the Honorable Minister, civil society, and businesses at every level towards achieving sustainable, responsible, and efficient water resources management in Nigeria. I thank you all for listening. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Asway, and thank you for this formal launch. And with this statement, I think we will now start the activities of galvanizing private sector in Nigeria to support water resources management, either within their operations or outside across their fence, and also within the watershed and the hydrological areas they operate. To kick this off, we have statements of support, and we have a very worthy partner in WaterAid. WaterAid Nigeria is doing a lot in terms of improving access to water and sanitation in Nigeria. We're also looking at how private entities can improve their operations within their supply chain to ensure that water resources and sanitation is also incorporated in the operations. And we have Ms. Evelyn Mere from the Country Director of Water Aid Nigeria to give us a statement of support. And after that, we will have Mr. Fred Kafiro from the Food and Agricultural Organization. He's the country representative. 70% of drawn water is for agriculture. And so it's very good to have Mr. Fred here to give us a statement of support. So we start with Ms. Evelyn Mere, please, Country Director, Water Aid Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Please allow me to stand on all already established protocols. Water Aid is both excited and honored to be at this event. We are excited at the possibilities on the horizon for the wash sector with the launch of a CEO water mandate in Nigeria. And we are honored to be part of this history-making moment for private sector deeper engagement with wash in Nigeria. Access to safe water, adequate sanitation, good hygiene, and sound management of freshwater ecosystems are essential to human well-being, environmental sustainability, and economic prosperity. SDG Goal 6 requires that universal access to wash be guaranteed for all by 2030 to build a sound foundation for healthy, prosperous societies. In Nigeria today, there's a bit of challenge towards realizing this goal. Poor access to wash affects a significant percentage of the population as follows. About 60 million people still lack access to clean water. Only 7% of healthcare facilities and 5% of schools have wash access. 110 million people do not have access to decent toilets. 150 million people do not have a place to wash their hands at critical times. 46 million people still practice open defecation. About 70,000 children die annually from treatable ailments caused by poor wash access. Nigeria loses about 1.3% of GDP annually to time, work productivity, and money spent both treating wash-related illnesses and time spent searching for water. Nigeria is therefore a country of great significance for wash. Achieving universal access in Nigeria will make a significant impact on progress on SDG 6 globally. But also looking at these issues conversely, they present tremendous opportunities for private sector investment in water, sanitation, and hygiene promotion, targeting the 60 million Nigerians who lack access to water, the 150 million people in need of hygiene information and products, and also at various points of the sanitation service chain to get toilets to the 110 million people who do not have them, while also leading on transforming waste to wealth in the country. And the Federal Ministry of Water Resources, in putting in place a lot of programs, have encouraged investment from the private sector to transform the wash narrative for Nigeria. Ensuring universal access to safe water, decent toilets, and good hygiene in Nigeria requires adequate investment in wash infrastructure, promotion of good hygiene, and supporting efficiency and responsible use of water-related ecosystems. This calls for all hands to be on deck. And what better hands are needed than those of the private sector in Nigeria, which comes with huge economic clout, innovation in the drive for profit, and tremendous influence. To begin to understand the reach and clout of the private sector, we can consider the following statistics. 1 in 5 people are employed in globalized supply chains. 80 to 90% of these people work in micro, small, and medium enterprises and dispersed farm production systems in developing countries. In some instances, some multinational companies work in up to 90 countries, employ up to 65,000 people, have direct relationships with about 350,000 people, and have links to over 4 million farmers. This presents huge potential for impact within these spheres of influence for WASH by the private sector. The role of the private sector in enabling universal access to WASH is tremendous due to their reach and scale, location of operations in countries that are significantly WASH challenged, and links with underserved communities. There is presently a willingness to contribute to realizing this goal. And poor access to water, sanitation, and hygiene pose one of the biggest risks to not just human existence, but to the sustainability of private sector investments. Today's launch of the CEO water mandate in Nigeria could therefore not have come at a better time, where huge opportunities exist to address the nation's WASH challenges. This will minimize risks posed to private sector operations, while also harnessing the humongous investment opportunities in the WASH sector. The initiatives of the Federal Ministry of Water Resources provide an enabling context to support private sector endorsers of the CEO water mandate to effectively play their role towards sustainable impact in the wash sector. Now, looking at us at WaterAid, our mission is to transform the lives of the poorest and most marginalized through improved and sustainable access to wash. Our work is built on 3 key pillars: sector strengthening and influencing along the building blocks of policy, planning, financing, coordination, capacity building, implementation, monitoring and evaluation towards improved wash services. We also empower citizens to demand better services as rights holders, but also enabling them take full responsibility for their role in adopting the right hygiene behaviors, payment of proper tariffs, and maintenance of wash infrastructure in their communities. We also foster key partnerships that deliver value to the sector with government, civil society, private sector, the academia, research institutions, amongst others. We do this through building wash infrastructure in hard-to-reach communities, utilizing context-relevant models supported by our quality standards, influencing the sector to adopt these standards, technical support to develop plans and policies, conducting research and using credible data as evidence to catalyze action in the sector, as well as building capacity of sector actors. Since 1995, when we started operations in Nigeria, we have reached about 3 million people with water, about 2.5 million people with sanitation, and over 6 million people with hygiene behavior change information through campaigns. Now, to look at areas of support that we can provide to the CEO Water mandate. This will fall in line with WaterAid's areas of comparative advantage, and there are key themes in which we can support technically or collaborate with the CEO Water mandate endorsing companies. We would like to tailor these to the objective of the CEO Water Mandate Initiative in Nigeria and along the 6 core elements of stewardship as stated. Looking at them, they include water resources management. We can seek collaboration to enable us deploy WaterAid's securing water resources approach for effective water resources management in Nigeria through our multiple water use services. These factors in livelihoods, ecosystems, disaster risks, and partnerships that enable sustainable water security. This is one of the key models that WaterAid has developed and has piloted in countries like Burkina Faso and Ghana with great success. We can work together in community engagement, providing technical support and partnerships to improve water access for communities, thereby reducing water-related risks to businesses who operate in these communities. We can also provide technical support to initiatives that protect watersheds, as well as utilizing our unique human-centered design approaches to improve sanitation and hygiene behaviors and practices. We are presently working with Coca-Cola, Diageo, and we just started doing some work with Heineken Africa Foundation on these areas. We can expand this to other endorsers of the mandate. We can work with organizations both in developing and fine-tuning their wash policies, but also to undertake joint wash advocacy to states in crafting public-private partnership policies that enable private sector investment in this state and in the sector. We can also generate evidence to inform private sector on the following areas. We can use data to build business cases for areas with huge investment potential, such as the sanitation value chain for the private sector. We can utilize data to develop wash risk maps to enable policy and action from the private sector to minimize risk to investment. We can develop thematic programs to support implementation with context-relevant models targeted at contextual issues such as gender, improving working conditions, looking at wastewater reuse and water quality, amongst other areas. We can collaborate with the private sector for improvement in fecal sludge management in the country with the aim of improving the quality of environment, protecting water bodies, and reducing water contamination. Through an effective management framework and development of the sanitation service chain, we can create small businesses and improve livelihoods for women and youth, looking at storage, evacuation, transportation, conveyance, treatment, and reuse. So sanitation service chain holds a huge potential for Nigeria with the number of open defecation happening and then the lack of access to toilets. And then we can work to deal with today's risks such as COVID. WaterAid has a history of collaboration with the CEO Water mandate globally. We implemented a project that enabled collaboration between CEO Water mandate, World Business Council for Sustainable Development, and Water Witness International, supported by the HSBC Bank Water Project. This enabled the exploration, assessment of existing system standards, and also included projects that enabled wash access for communities of about 45,000 tea pickers in Bangladesh who did not have toilets, who did not have anywhere to wash their hands, and which posed a huge risk of contamination for the companies that engage them. This can be replicated here in Nigeria. WaterAid welcomes the adoption of a CEO Water Mandate initiative in Nigeria. We are committed to supporting its effective implementation in the country as we have elsewhere. We are honored to work with the NESG and the platform and make this support statement with all seriousness and a sense of responsibility. We keep in view the impact of poor wash access on Nigerians and the economy. We are excited at the potential for impact on wash that today's event promises. Thank you very much for listening. God bless.
Thank you very much, Evelyn, for the very detailed and interesting presentation of what WaterAid is already doing and also what WaterAid is committing to do with the CEO Water Mandate in Nigeria. We look forward to working with you to realize these objectives. We just received an apology from Mr. Fred of Food and Agriculture Organization. Agriculture, it's about 70% of drawn water globally. And so it's very central to what we are discussing. It's either too much water impact on agriculture or too little water impacts same on agriculture. But also we need to eat. So for food production, you need water. And so we will be looking forward to engaging with the Food and Agriculture Organization on this. Next on our agenda is a call to action. And we have Mr. Lauri Jayola, the CEO of Nigeria Economic Summit Group, and Ms. Naomi Nwokolo, Executive Director, UN Global Compact Nigeria. They will facilitate this discussion in terms of call to action, and they will tell us the next steps after this session. Mr. Jayola, please. You're on mute. It's your turn. It's your mute, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Gabriel. Honorable Minister, Chairman NESG, distinguished ladies and gentlemen and panelists and all participants. It gives me great pleasure to be here to sound a call to action to all listeners and all Nigerians. And I'm glad that I'm doing this with the UNGC Global Compact in Nigeria. And since the inception of the UNGC Global Compact, the NESG has been hosting the UNGC in Nigeria and supporting them in all the work that they do in Nigeria. And I'm glad that together we are launching, we're actually handling a very important aspect of Nigerian life, which is water. You will agree with me that Nigeria is expected, if you're not careful, to become a water scarce nation. And you've heard that from the Honorable Minister and the Chairman did talk about that. If you're not careful, and if you don't do the right things, in the next 10 years, we'll be a water scarce nation. And the World Bank itself estimates that to achieve water, sanitation, and health and hygiene, the watch goals of the SDG 6 by 2020, Nigeria will need to invest at least 1.7% of our GDP. So if you take a GDP of around $450 billion, it means that we will need to be investing at least about $8 billion per year. Currently, we're only doing somewhere around 1 billion, which means that we're doing just 0.022% of the GDP. No doubt, government can provide these resources alone. That's why this CEO mandate is very, very important, so that there is sufficient platform to build in the needed partnership for all the resources to come in. Even the World Bank did point our attention to the fact that 73% of the enteric boarding in Nigeria is connected to inadequate wash. And therefore, when we see that our people we have malnutrition crisis in Nigeria, and our people we have incidents of stunting, wasting, and underweight, you then tie down to poor use of water, inadequate of clean water to our people. Of course, you have the Honorable Minister talked about the number of people that have access to good water. As of 2019, about about 29% of Nigerians do not have access to clean water. And this means that 1 out of every 3 lives are yet to have access to clean and drinkable water, which shows that, of course, there is a need for us to take this business of access to clean water, effective use of water very, very seriously. Naomi, you want to take the next bit?
Thank you very much, Mr. Jayola, and kindly permit me to stand on existing protocols too. So we can see from all the discussions today that there is indeed an urgent need to respond to water crisis, as we have seen that climate change has a significant impact on our water systems, and it remains a threat if we do not take actions. So I'd like to just introduce a simple example for the Lake Chad, for example, which was one of Africa's largest lakes, as we may know. It is in distress. And over the last 60 years, the lake size has decreased by 90% as a result of overuse of water, extended droughts, and the impact of climate change. Research carried out in the last 40 years has indicated that the main factors in the shrinking of the lake have been due to major overgrazing in the region, which has resulted to a loss of vegetation and serious deforestation that has contributed to a drier climate. Also is a large and unsustainable irrigation project that was built by the Niger Republic, Nigeria, Cameroon, and Chad itself. It was a great contributing factor. Last year, the UN reported that there's now a humanitarian issue as the changes in the lake have contributed to local lack of water, crop failures, livestock deaths, collapsed fisheries, soil salinity, and increasing poverty throughout the region. So clearly there is a business case for water. And learning from Lake Chad, we as a country need to scale up our water security and protection activities. So now we have launched the water mandate. I am challenging everyone in the room today to take the pledge. The water mandate has been launched. What else? What do we have to do? It's interesting to see WaterAid already making commitment to support the mandate. So I want to ask which company is going to be the first in the house today to sign up to the water mandate. Interestingly enough, Nigeria is the first African country to sign this water mandate, and also the first local network of the UN Global Compact in Africa to sign the mandate. So let us all come together and see how we can take actions, not just talking, but set examples by signing up to the mandates. Thank you.
So, we need to go on and then, remind ourselves. When I listened to the minister and his speech, I got a bit worried that as of 1990, 32% of Nigerians have access to pipe-borne water. Today, that the last data we have is about 2015. And that says that only 7% have access to it. And therefore, if you don't take charge, if you don't take action, maybe children that are going to be born may not even know that once upon a time we used to have pipe-borne water in Nigeria. Secondly, we've had the case about Nigeria being the second largest country with open defecation. It was 24% in 1990, and even despite the growth in our population, it has remained about 25% in 2015, in spite of all the work that everybody's been doing. So this call to question, and it's asked us to urgently arise and take this business very, very seriously. It means that people might be doing small things in a small corners, unless and until we collaborate, unless and until we work together and ensure that resources are effectively and efficiently used, we may not achieve what we desire to achieve. And that is why the NESG is calling all businesses, and we stand here to represent all businesses, whether big or small, to say, time is now for us to work together to deal with this shortage of water in Nigeria. Naomi, you want to speak before we then go on to the call for action?
Yes, CEO, thank you. Like I said earlier, we need to act fast and smart, so I'll have to align myself with what you said. As we know, in the UN system, we have all entered the decade of action for the SDGs. And water is properly captured in SDG 6, which is water and sanitation, 12, which is consumption and production, SDG 14, life in water, and 15, life on land. So as we work towards delivering on the 2030 agenda by 2030, let us all ensure that we set new targets and drive delivery on the environmental related SDGs, including water.
So what do we commit to? Next slide of action. And I'm glad that my chairman is here. And sometimes when you give the CEO mandate to go ahead, he commits people. What are we committing to as NESG, leading the private sector? I mean, we did talk about the fact that since 28 years, we have been in this business of partnering and collaborating and making platform available. And this platform is strong enough to interface with the federal, with state government, with local government, and with civil society. We commit to make available this platform to ensure that we drive the CEO water mandate effectively, so that we'll all begin to sit down, identify, articulate practical means to solving this problem. But not only are we going to just discuss and articulate, we're going to ensure that we begin to work with our partners to ensure that we monitor and we implement and we get this thing done.
I want to add that we are gathered here today because of the power of partnerships, which is very much in line with Goal 17 of the SDGs. So as a country office of the United Nations Global Compact, we are undertaking today to facilitate the engagement between governments, civil society, the private sector, and even cross-sectoral collaborations towards shared sustainable water management. As I stated earlier, we are the first African country to launch the CEO water mandate. And in our global campaign on making global goals local business, we'll be co-leading that event, and we want to bring these same actors in the room to see how we can continue the conversations and work towards implementing the water mandate in Nigeria.
As a foremost think tank in Nigeria, one of our strengths is being ability to do evidence-driven advocacy. So we commit and working with WaterAid and learning from and picking up from WaterAid and UNGC and to ensure that we have robust and very specific research work that will guide our dialogue with all the platform, all the other agencies we have recognized. I want to say that we have a water and sanitation thematic group led by Gabriel there. And we will begin now to drive the action towards some of the commitments we've made today. If there is anything at all, time is of essence, and the time is now. So on behalf of the NESG, I want to say that we don't have much time on our hands. On our part, we are committed, and we're willing to roll out. And to remind you again that our summit itself for this year starts on the 26th to 27th, and this discussion and this dialogue continues. We intend to gather as many governors of states at that function, and we will kick the discussion alongside with them. So thank you very much, and the action is now. Over to you, Naomi.
Thank you, sir. So we at the Nigerian network of the United Nations Global Compact, we will undertake to work with you, the NESG, and the relevant ministries to conduct awareness sessions on the CEO water mandates and engage with our members to join the Water Resilience Coalition of the UNGC and take the pledge. The UN Global Compact in Nigeria and also our headquarters in New York, we are readily available to provide the support where necessary to support this mandate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO, Nigeria Economic Summit Group, and also Executive Director, UN Global Compact Nigeria. It's very clear that the NESG and the UNGC is committed to taking this forward, and with all the next steps you've outlined, it's clear that there's a lot of work to do, between the NESG and the UNGC, and also how we galvanize the private sector to start the CEO water mandate in Nigeria. I think it will be very interesting to see the first set of companies that will sign up to this and start implementing. We've seen some questions on the platform. The Minister is already responding to some of them. And thank you, Honorable Minister. Some of the questions are still coming up, so please keep sending them. We'll be responding. Also, we've seen questions about sharing the slides and the minister's speech. This would we'll share them to all participants so that you have the presentations that we made at this event. Now, for a closing remark, we've come to the end of this, but we'll have a closing remark. The closing remark will be delivered by Ms. Mailan. Mailan is a senior advisor, CEO Water Mandate, UN Global Compact. She will close this event for us. Please, Ms. Mailan, please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all the remarks previously here to the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, to the Honorable Minister for his remarks detailing the situation in Nigeria, as well as the policies and plans that are underway to ensure long-term water security in the country, to Naomi and the UN Global Compact Nigeria Network for the commitment and for the launch of the OCO Water Mandate platform in Nigeria. I'm very pleased to be able to join you today from the UN Global Compact's headquarters in New York City, where, as Naomi had already mentioned, this is a decade of action. The Secretary General has called. We know that for most of and all the SDGs, we are very far from able to meet the objectives that were set out when the Sustainable Development Goals were launched. And this is the critical period. I think the COVID-19 pandemic has also shined a light on the potential for countries to take action in order to meet the difficulties that they're facing today. But in order to do that, we actually need to accelerate the action in order to meet the SDGs in a way that actually leads to the betterment of society and the economies overall. And from the Global Compact side, about 2 weeks ago, we launched the SDG Ambition, which is basically a platform to actually accelerate action by companies working with others to take action across a number of different sustainability topics, water being one of those that was included in the SDG Ambition. And within the SDG Ambition, there was a very clear call out that ties directly to the goals set by the Water Resilience Coalition that Jason mentioned earlier in his remarks. So this provides a framework, I think, at the global level for companies to really find the light forward, the North Star from which it is that they can actually take action in order to help meet and achieve the Sustainable Development Goals at the national level, the local levels, and also contribute to the global levels so that we can all move forward in a decade ahead. As we already heard from many of the remarks from the number of speakers here today, the success of the water work, unlike some other potential topics, can only take place if it is done at the local level. The issues of lack of water is different from country to country, and even within countries from region to region. Whether it is that we're looking at flood issues that's affecting major portions of Nigeria, to water scarcity issues, to water access sanitation issues. All of these take place and can only be addressed if it is addressed by the local stakeholders in the countries and in the regions where there are local actors and local operations. So we are very pleased to see that the launch of the CO Water Mandate in Nigeria, because it provides a platform for that local action needed in the countries, bringing together the stakeholders from the government sector at the federal and the state level to the business sectors, to the NGO sectors. And we're very pleased to see that WaterAid has already been working with the NESG in the past on this issue and has already signed up to committed to continue this action before. We also see that the issue of water is not just an environmental issue. A number of speakers already touched upon the cross-cutting nature that touches upon the environmental issues, the ecosystem issues, the services that are provided, in addition to the social dimensions of the water access, sanitation, and hygiene issues, in order to address everything from open defecation issues to safe water issues and so forth. And so this holistic approach can only be done by the local actors in context. We've heard from a number of the business actors from the CO Water Mandate at the global level, where there has been a number of different and I think quite inspiring messages that's been put forward by Nestle and as well as Heineken around examples where there has been collaborative action, and the only answer to a lot of these issues is collaboration, as so many of us have heard before during this call and will need to continue to do in order to really solve the problems, and that there is not one solution. And in a lot of places, it will require a number of different solutions to solve the issues that are facing the world today, and in the countries and in the regions where there are unique challenges. And so I think that we can take note of the existing examples that have already been showcase during the presentations and during the discussions today, in order to move forward, in order to take inspiration from that, in order to see how it is that they can apply it in local context, taking into account local conditions, and to move forward. But I think that the message here is the need for urgent action now. There are tools and resources that are being done at the global level, but to put them into reality, to bring them to life, we'll need to see how it actually plays out at the local level. And so from our part of the UN Global Compact at the global level, we stand ready, as we have said, as Naomi and others said, to work with the NESG in Nigeria, with the UN Global Compact Network Nigeria, and the companies in Nigeria, to see how some of these tools and resources can be applied in the Nigerian context, where it is at the global level that can assist and help in this. But we stand ready to assist and lead with the companies and the other stakeholders in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mylan. And thank you for the closing remark. We've come to the end of this. Just to inform you that if you need more information on the CEO Water Mandate, you can visit ceowatermandate.org. On the NESG, you can visit the nesgroup.org, nesgroup.org. On the UN Global Compact, you can visit unglobalcompact.org for more information. Thank you everyone for joining us. We will be taking this forward, and we look forward to working with you as we implement the CEO Water Mandate in Nigeria. Thank you and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Jan.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Jan. Bye, Maylan.
Bye.
Honorable Minister, thank you very much, sir.